You want me to start? No,
Yeah.
I kind of want you to start, but if you really
All
want
right,
me
it's
to,
your
I'll start.
podcast. It's your podcast, so I'll go.
All right.
So a personal vendetta would be none other than Red Sweater Man himself, Ken Bone. He came at me. He unleashed the Boniacs, the Boneheads, as they call themselves, on me and on Twitter. It was like very beginning of COVID, and he said some dumb
Tell,
joke. It
tell
wasn't
people who
funny
Ken,
at
tell
all.
people who Ken Bone is if they don't
If
know.
you don't know who Ken Bone is, then you've been living under a rock. But he was the guy that the 2016 presidential election, during one of the debates where they give the microphone to a few people to ask questions. I don't even remember what his question was, but he was a viral sensation because he had like a mustache, kind of a dorky looking red sweater, and America fell in love with him. And he was able to
Yeah.
stretch that 5 minutes of fame into apparently 5 years
He was on
because
Bill. He was on Bill Maher's show. Like, yeah, he had a
he
good
was,
run.
and he still has a bunch of lunatics that love him. So he made some dumb joke about COVID, and I sarcastically said, "Not now, Ken. Come on."
On
And he goes,
Twitter.
"Oh, yeah," on Twitter, and he came back at me, "Oh, get off your high horse." And then all these boneheads started coming at me. And I did like one of the gifts that they sent me, I will say, was like, "Welcome to the Bone Zone," and it was like a picture of Ken Bone, but he sucks. And then the other one that I would say, you know, Chrissy Teigen.
Yes.
So she represents like a bigger problem with celebrities, I think, but she's like the most glaring example of somebody who's like, at first it was cute, it's all like I'm self-deprecating, or look at me trying to be too ironic and funny on Twitter, and it's just so cringy now. It's so overdone. She's like, she went from being beloved to just overdoing it like 1,000 times. All of her jokes are stupid. She tries way too hard. I can't stand the stuff that she does on Twitter. Can't stand it.
Dude, that's a really good one. I fucking hate Chrissy Teigen.
She's so annoying, dude.
Yeah, I
And
don't
she
even know
thinks it's
why.
probably
Like,
me because she thinks she's so funny and smart, and it's just, and it sucks because I like John Legend.
I actually don't like him either.
Really, he's
Yeah,
very talented.
of course, he's good at music.
Why don't you? Yeah. Well, I mean, you don't like him because he's associated with her, which I'm fine with. But she's like, also Katy Perry has the same effect on me. Like if you asked me in 2012, she would have been like, top 3 celebrities for me. Very quickly fell from grace. Where it's like you're too self-aware, you're trying way too hard, trying to be cute. Jennifer Lawrence kind of was on that path, and she's faded away.
What do you mean when you say they're too cute? Or
They're
like
just
too
trying to
like
be cute all the time, always trying to be ironic, always trying to like.
the one thing
It's
I
hard to
remember
put
about
into
Katy
words.
Perry was that she had like braids, and then people said it was cultural appropriation, and she sat down with a group of people and was like, they were explaining to her why it was cultural appropriation, and she apologized. That's one thing I remember about
Very
Katy
phony.
Perry.
I guess phony
Yeah.
is another word, right? They're all always on, and everything that they do or say seems to be like to get a laugh, or to be like, "Oh, look how relatable she is. Oh, she eats chicken wings just like the rest of us." Stop it. Just cut it out. We don't care. We don't want to see it anymore.
Okay. Honestly, I think Chrissy Teigen is a great answer. I really do. All right, so my turn. I don't think you're gonna. I don't think you're gonna know mine. But all right, so I have a philosophy on hate. It's I don't hate anyone, but I do have another philosophy on hate. It's that I always like to hate one person just for fun. Like, and also I feel like hate is like, it's okay to hate. Like my whole life, I've always loved everyone, but I've always hated one person. In our fraternity, you probably remember who that one person was.
Yep.
And shout out to Jersey. I had one guy in the fraternity that I hated, and I liked everyone else. And I like everyone, but I always have some person I hate. Right now, in my current life, the person I hate is this motherfucker at Food Lion. He's at my local Food Lion. He's a cashier, and he goes so fucking slow on purpose. And this is what I said earlier when you mentioned about in the South. I don't notice it, but this one guy, there was the whole supermarket was crowded. Every lane was open. And it was, I forget why it was so crowded. I think it might have been, I forget what it was. But this guy was purposely going slow. I could tell. And I was like, all right, maybe he was having a bad day. Every time I go back to the Food Lion, this is my personal guy that I hate. This isn't my answer to the question, the celebrity I have a beef with.
Right.
But out of my life, that's the person I hate the most. I hate this person the most, this cashier at Food Lion.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is he like intentionally going slow? Is he old and he can't go any faster?
Either way, I fucking hate him.
But is he like super old? It sounds like this guy's probably super old.
He's in between old and really old. But like, I swear when I watch him that he's doing it to piss everyone off. And
I kind of
I
respect
just,
that.
it's part of my, it's part of my thing where I like to have one person to hate for fun.
That's a
Okay,
little bit
but
of power that he has that he's using, but go ahead.
yeah. He's like, look at me, everyone, look at me. I'm going so slow.
I don't hate that move.
I'm ruining all your days. Yeah, well, I fucking hate this guy, and every time I see him, I'm like, fuck this guy. All right, but here's my celebrity that I have a beef with that I do not like. Dave Chappelle. I don't
Wow.
think Dave Chappelle is
Could
funny. I do not think Dave Chappelle is funny. And everyone thinks, I have some explanations. Everyone thinks, oh my God, Dave Chappelle, the funniest guy in the world. He's the king of comedy, the king of stand up. It's like he walks on water and doesn't even have to like prove himself. And he like, everyone just thinks he's so funny. So, all right. So I wasn't obsessed with this. I got a couple of reasons. I wasn't obsessed with the Chappelle show as a kid. I've seen all the funny bits of the Chappelle show. Yeah, some of them are funny, but it's just like a racist show. Like, and whatever. The Chappelle show, okay, that's probably his best thing.
snowflake.
Uh, yeah, I mean, okay, whatever. It's an incredibly racist show, and whatever. Overrated, I think. So then he did this skit on SNL after Trump got elected, where he was in the living room, and
Mhm.
it was like they were. I thought that skit was so awkward, so out of touch, so ugh. I hated that skit. So I'm like, okay. And at this point, I still kind of like Dave Chappelle. I just recently noticed that I don't think he's that funny. So then he did that special after the George Floyd situation called 846, and everyone was saying, "Oh my God, you gotta listen to this thing. It really, really is in touch. It's so you gotta listen to Dave Chappelle. He's become like this voice that like everyone has to like respect Dave Chappelle." I listened to it. Not one intellectual argument in it at all. All he says is, "Oh, cops kill black people. It sucks for black people." Like not one. There was nothing intellectual about it. It was the same as some guy on the street just complaining about shit. I was like, all right, now I'm starting to like hate Dave Chappelle as far as I don't think he's funny. And then okay, so I was thinking about this. We had this topic yesterday. I was thinking about this. I was thinking about how I don't like Dave Chappelle that much. And then he was on Joe Rogan yesterday. The title was Joe Rogan with Darnell Rawlings
Darnell
and
Rollins.
Dave Chappelle. So I was like, okay, tomorrow on the podcast, I'm going to talk about how I don't like Dave Chappelle and I don't think he's funny. And I got to listen to this podcast. So I was up printing shirts late last night, and it's a 3-hour podcast. Dave Chappelle doesn't come for the last fucking 20 minutes, and he comes unprepared with no jokes ready. I mean, I get that the podcast is not stand up; it's just chilling. But he brought no value to the conversation. It was awkward. I was like, okay, maybe this podcast with Joe Rogan can change my mind. Dave Chappelle's in the title of it, and it made me hate him even more. He showed up at the very end. It was a surprise. It was late. They didn't have enough microphones. It was rude. Part of it is that if he was just someone who wasn't so admired and glorified in the world of comedy, walks on water, Dave Chappelle, I wouldn't hate him as much. But the fact that he does that, he does absolutely not live up to those standards. All his jokes are like, "I'm black. Black people are hated." Ha ha ha. Isn't that funny? Like I think he's the most overrated comedian in the world. And even when he was on SNL recently, I started watching his little monologue in the beginning. It's like, okay, one funny thing. It's been like five. Every time I listen to him, I end up turning it off. He doesn't hold my attention. I don't like Dave Chappelle, and I think he is just so overrated. And I have zero reason to understand why he's this admired, walked on water comedian, and it drives me crazy. And that's my beef. That's my celebrity beef.
I couldn't disagree with what you're saying anymore.
All right, what makes Dave Chappelle
Just about
funny?
every point. I think he's hilarious. Have you ever watched any of his stand-up specials?
Yeah, I turn him off, man.
Okay.
I watched the one where he had one funny joke about like abortion, men's choice, woman's choice. I forget the joke what it was. It was kind of funny, but the whole thing was all right.
Dude, so funny. I mean, what about like back in the day? So I think that what you're saying about Chappelle Show is wrong. I think it's the best sketch comedy show by far that's been on TV.
Key and Peele's so much better.
No way.
Key and Peele's way
No
better than
way.
Chappelle Show.
No
I feel like
way.
I feel like everyone just has this nostalgia with the Chappelle Show.
Dude, it's so funny. It's on Netflix. I was watching it the other day. It's so funny. Every and like the racist thing. Come on. I mean, that's so soft of you of all people. Like that's what's funny about it. He's racist against everyone, against white people, against black people, against Asians.
I'm not racist as far
Killing
as
Him Softly is like one of the greatest
everyone
stand-up
equally.
specials of all time. So put all that aside, that I think that his specials are hilarious, going way back till his most recent ones. don't you usually a good mark of a stand-up comedian is like what other comedians say about them and what they think about them.
That's
right?
one of the reasons I don't like him, because I don't feel like he matches up to that standard. Yes, every comedian says he's the best comedian of all time, all of them.
Right.
So I feel like everybody hears that, and everybody is obsessed with it, and everyone has this like walk on water vision of him, and me hearing that and thinking, oh, Dave Chappelle. He always lets me down because I have such high expectations for him, and I don't think he's that funny.
At the end of the day, it's like subjective. So I can't convince you that he's funny if you don't think he's funny, but I think that he's very, very, very funny. I don't think that it's like a public perception says so. So let it be. You know, I think
Do you think?
hilarious.
Did you watch the 846 thing?
I did. Yeah.
Did you think it was some type of intellectual commentary on society?
I don't think that's, but it wasn't supposed. It's not. It's you don't.
Well, it wasn't funny.
To be, you know,
there was no jokes.
I think there were jokes in the beginning, but I think it was just like people want to hear his perspective because he has an interesting way of looking at the world, and like he doesn't have an interesting way of looking at the world. I disagree, and that's kind of what the Chappelle show was like his kind of commentary on society and
society hates black people. I'm black. Isn't that funny? That's just every joke.
Did you watch the Chappelle show? Because that's not what it was.
I will say I didn't watch it as closely as everyone else.
So it sounds to me like you haven't watched a ton. You haven't like taken in a ton of his content. You saw the 847 thing, which was like 20 minutes. You watched the beginning of one of his stand-ups. SNL sucks. It always sucks nowadays. So I don't hold that against him. And that's kind of it. Like I made a couple of sketches on.
It's possible I haven't dove deep enough. But
so
for the sake of the podcast, I'm sticking with my point. I'm doubling down. Fuck Dave Chappelle.
All right. Well, we'll watch one together. Me, you, and Nico and I always watch like when his specials come out, we always get together and watch them. Really, I think he's hilarious. So,
all right.
I think you're wrong. I would say like factually incorrect.
All right. Well, I agree with you. I agree with you on Chris G. Teigen.
Okay. Well, you know what? I still disagree. But
all right. That's my fucking hot take. Fuck you, Dave Chappelle. All right.
I love you.
Boom. All right. So before the next segment, I'm actually really excited about this one thing. We have our first advertisement on the show, our first podcast, and it's from I'm sure you've heard this before on many podcasts, but it's the Dollar Shave Club. So I just have a little ad read here. All right. So do you know someone who's been locked down at home for so long that they look like a scruffy dog or a Viking that's on a long trip at sea? This holiday season, get them the gift of Dollar Shave Club. It's the perfect gift for your handsome friends who grew crazy beards in 2020 and look like they lost all the mirrors at their house. Each purchase comes with a set of razors, premier shaving cream, and yes, a mirror. Dollar Shave Club, because you don't need to be rich to look like a standard human being. Looking like a homeless bum isn't necessary with Dollar Shave Club. Use the checkout code Sean Lowry Show for 35 cents off all orders over $500. So that one's for our listeners, and it's the Dollar Shave Club. So go check it out. dollarshaveclub.com/Sean Lowry Show. And yeah, it helps support the podcast, and just go check it out.
There's also one. This is a quick one. It just came in last minute. It's for Big T Testosterone Boost. Do you have a 30-year-old friend who still looks like a 12-year-old pubescent little girl? Well, you can help them too. Sign up now at promo code Hecker to make sure that they can get some tea so they're not a soy boy with low T, with no testosterone, and no facial hair ever. That's promo code Hecker or soy boy. All right.
All right, cool. So yeah, it's good. It's good that we're getting sponsorships for the podcast. It's really exciting. So yeah, everyone go support those. All right, Brandon, what's the next topic? Have you ever heard a better podcast in your entire life? Take that, Joe Rogan. Best podcast you've ever heard. Get more podcasts right here and subscribe to the show too while you're at it. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate you. Honestly, I love you.